before we started recording, we were talking about Nicolas Cage, and so that was a very amusing reference.
This is what that inside joke was about.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, good sir. You're a comedian, right?
Yes. I would normally have said stand-up comedian,
Right.
but I haven't done a proper gig for a while now, because
I heard there's a thing going on.
We're still sort of locked down. Yeah, because there's some stuff happening. I don't know if you read the news, but I've been the main victim so far. It's really interrupted my career plans. But so I have pivoted, as we say. I've pivoted.
Yes.
Actually, I was doing online videos before coronavirus struck, but I'm doing more of them and more frequently. Or maybe because people are sitting at home, more people are watching them now than they used to, because everybody is so bored. So I do a bit of writing. I do a bit of writing for indie video games, and I make jokes in situations where I'm allowed, and do a bit of animation and stuff.
Yeah, you want to drop any plugs on these video games?
No.
Okay.
Nope, I don't get royalties on them. Let them deal with the marketing.
Work it out. Okay.
It's not my problem.
I'm into it. So,
nope, I've done my job.
Can you tell me a bit about your relationship with editing?
Well, my background before I started doing any comedy was I went to film school, and they hated me so much, and they were like, "Stop trying to make films, please. We don't want you here."
Stop trying to.
I'm paraphrasing, but only slightly. Please stop this. But one of the useful things was I learned in trying to make trying to do serious short films, which were actually really quite profound, really kind of exploring something about the human condition. I tried to make serious films, and people laughed at my films that were not supposed to be funny, which is horrible.
That doesn't sound great.
You think being comedians, like when people laugh, that's good, but actually when you're trying to be serious and they laugh, it's not nice. So good. I guess you turn it around and you go, well, if you're gonna laugh, then I'm gonna make jokes, and then we'll see who's an idiot.
Who's laughing.
Yeah, that's I know Bob Monkhouse joke.
Exactly.
Isn't it? When I said I wanted a comedian, they laughed.
They're not laughing now. Yo. Which I guess they acquired for Joker.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's a good one. Well, yeah, that was the thing that struck me, was that there's you can throw a stone and you'll hit 12 people who make. Smosh was like one of the first YouTube people, I think, who got together and were like, yeah, let's just make little shorts that are kind of ideas that pop into our head or whatever. But what you won't find is you edit them very, very, very. Being an editor myself, I can see how difficult the kind of editing you do, So it's like, it's kind of more like a Captain Disillusion kind of level, editing for stuff. And I was like,
I'm a big fan of the Captain.
Yeah, he's great.
Of Captain Disillusion, and also a big fan of his sort of one every 6 months video schedule, which is incredibly fast considering the work that goes into
it.
Right. So at the moment I'm doing like a minute for this year. I've been doing a minute-long skit or sketch a week, which is at the moment a shocking amount of work, considering I'm doing sort of compositing and little bits of. Well, for this week, I don't know when this video will go out. This week, I just did a spoof of Star Trek: The Next Generation, topical.
Nice. Yes.
A show that went off air 27 yeyears ago. I think that seems ripe for someone to make fun of for the first time.
If you watch Red Letter Media, it's just as topical as it ever was.
So I just did a CGI bald head for myself, thinking that won't be that difficult, so that I can do a bad impression of Patrick Stewart and have a bald head.
It's actually a great impression of Patrick Stewart.
I know, I was thinking that too.
Thank you very much.
That's much better than me.
It's I will tell you this, doing a CGI bald head, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Holy shit, it's actually kind of good.
Regret that quite a lot. So I just finished doing that, and it was like, why do I have 13 separate shots of me with a bald head? If I just had one shot, I could have just done tracking for the whole shot. I've now got 13 separate shots.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, done it now.
Yeah.
It's going to get like 3 retweets. And I'll be like, yep.
I'll be one of them.
Glad I did that.
And
I'll be one of them.
And that's what I was gonna. I was thinking about that too, because I have that problem as well, where I've been trying to find this nice medium between the amount of. Well, I guess a better way to put it is that like whenever I make any kind of video SAE kind of content or whatever, those are lots of editing. It's like, first off, you have the issue. I mean, I think it's part of the problem with Captain Disillusion is I wonder how much of this the 6-month schedule is the editing is difficult, and how much of it is like he has to come up with an idea. You know, if you don't have an idea, there's no video. So it's like maybe it takes 2 months just to find the next thing to debunk or whatever.
Weirdly, I think I don't think the ideas of that are yeah, you're absolutely right that a good idea is harder to come up with than a bad idea. But in a weird way, I think committing to the bit and putting the effort in, it's sort of like one of the first things I did that I put on my YouTube was an animation I did as an intro for a stand-up show, which was an animation in the style of like Thundercats, late 80s, early 90s animation, which took a ludicrous amount of work, like weeks and weeks of animation. But the justification was, well, it's going to a live show, which will be at the Edinburgh Fringe, and so it serves a purpose, and also is marketing. But there's no way of justifying that amount of effort for like a minute and a half of animation. The only justification is that it's kind of funny, isn't it, to just put too much effort into a stupid idea.
It absolutely is. You're right. Yeah.
It isn't. It makes it better to just do it to do it as well as you can. I mean, it's also, you have to be in a somewhat privileged position of having a set of skills and having the time to, I understand why people don't spend a couple of days in a week giving themselves a bald head so they can do an impression of Patrick Stewart.
Absolutely.
But if I don't know, people do videos on their phones with no costumes and go viral, so it doesn't there's no way of knowing.
That's where all my hair went.
For me, trying super hard seems the right thing to do.
I'm into it. I'm totally into it. Like many people, I actually found you relatively recently with your super viral video of Mr. Gurren Goranson.
Yes, I did a video about Scandi Noir, which somebody stole from Twitter actually and put on Reddit, and as a consequence of that,
interesting.
Some of the views managed to trickle back to me, and I went from having no YouTube followers to having some YouTube followers.
Well, and there's really something to be said for
subscribers. Followers. I'm so new to YouTube.
What is this? Never mind. The show's over. No, but there's definitely something to be said for making bingeable, watchable content. So it's like I saw that video. It randomly was on my suggestions or whatever. I was like, okay, I'll bite. Because that is definitely for anyone who watches those kinds of shows, that is a title that makes you go like, okay, like I'll bet there's like a more dour Broadchurch out there, So let me see.
Yeah, and they're full of their own cliches, and it's in that nice area for comedy where it feels niche,
right?
And actually, Star Trek is still in this area. People are like, Star Trek, it's a bit niche. It's like, it was one of the most successful TV shows of all time. They had 3 series in the 90s. There were 3 different Star Trek shows on television at the same time. Like, it couldn't be less niche.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people feel like that way about video games, like as if the video game industry is some cottage industry. Like, oh, you can't talk about video games. It's a bit niche. It's not.
Only little kids play video games.
From Candy Crush to like Call of Duty, like people play video games.
Yeah. Well,
but if it feels niche, then you can make a specific joke that loads of people get. But they all feel like
they're in on some joke.
Yeah, we get it because I know all about this.
Well, and I'm already running into the problem for our shows that I'm realizing that like, there's only like so many kinds of shows that are on television right now. Like it's like there's a million cop dramas, there's a million ER knockoffs. It's like, and then now we're getting into like there's all the CIA shows and stuff. You have like the Jack Reachers and the Homeland Security shows and stuff like that, so it's like it's just all of that over and over and over again. So yeah, it starts becoming like, well, and the hard one too is it's more difficult to, if we did this show with a prompt that was basically do like Everybody Loves Raymond, that's not a plot driven show, it's just about jokes. So it would be an hour of us sitting here just trying to be like, I don't know, and then Raymond says blah blah blah, and someone else is like, that's not where I put the crackers last time. It's like it's a very tough way to do. So I might want to tackle that someday. But for now, we're not doing that. So with no transition at all, we're gonna hop into our prompt today, which I didn't think about how to say this prompt concisely, but we are doing like serial killer murder mystery today.
Nice.
Here's the conceit. We basically have a well, I guess, Daniel Craig from Knives Out, we're doing like a whodunit kind of murder mystery show. But week to week, there's a new crime. But what the twist is that our detective, our crack detective, Sherlock Holmes type, is actually a serial killer. He murders people, and then he gets himself hired to come and solve the mystery. And when talking to, the family or who are the people are and the kind of whodunit, what he's really gunning for is trying to figure out who is the person based on all of the information that I get that I could pin it on. And he always gets his man.
Like a psychic cold reader, just essentially trying to work it out from the cues.
Basically, yeah. Well, and if you think about, like Knives Out or whatever, that guy gets so much information from everyone, or, Clue, or any number of these, like Murder on the Orient Express. You get so much information that it's like, yeah, he could probably tell the cops it was anyone and use all of this vast amount of information he has from the whole crew of like who has the weakest alibi, and let's pin it on him.
Yeah, a lot of them hinge on a person with a moustache.
Yes.
Saying it was you, and then there being no material evidence. And usually the person goes, "That's right, it was me," and I do it again. Yeah. And then they're taken away. But like a decent lawyer is going to be able to pick apart like one confession in a dining room, in like a drawing room. That isn't a confession. If there's a billiard table in the room when you confess, then they're going to throw that out in court. Nobody, it's not sticking to any of these people.
It's almost never recorded or anything. It's just kind of like,
no
constable.
The only people in the room were other suspects for the crime. So they're clearly not reliable.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's very it's also like because they don't want you to be able to figure out the movie while you're watching the movie. They're normally impossibly convoluted. And so that's the other thing, is that often Sherlock follows this trail of breadcrumbs that are so like, how did you make those connections? What are you talking about?
There's so many cheats. Have you ever watched Death in Paradise, the BBC series?
No, I haven't.
It's a wonderful series that I did not appreciate to begin with. It's sort of weirdly like Doctor Who, because they keep replacing the main character with different actors, keep leaving. Excellent. And they keep going, well, it's set on a Caribbean island where a white British cop comes over and has to be in charge of the police there for reasons that will not be explored, and with a complex colonial subtext that is mentioned in the second episode and never comes back. But the important thing is, it's a white guy cop on a Caribbean island, and they're a fish out of water, they solve mysteries, and then they leave, and then a different cop will replace them, but who is the exact same quality.
Do they do that thing where he's still a fish out of water, and it's like, hey man, it's been 7 years, dude, like, you don't get it yet?
It's like a series of fishes out of the same
so
water.
they're not doing the James Bond thing. It's not all the same guy.
Not quite. It's not. Okay. No, he's not literally the same guy. It is different characters.
That's even better though. They're like, we can't.
It's so delightful.
We can't train one of you guys. We need another one of ours.
But I think like 2 or 3 episodes ago, they managed to solve the problem of the confession in the room by getting the guy to confess on live television, because he didn't realize he was broadcasting when he said, "That's right, I did it, but you can never prove it." Okay. And it's like, how is he going to get a jury trial when the entire island just watched him confess on live television? You've just freed this man. There is no way.
Oh, that's an interesting
Sorry to spoil that episode for anyone, but there is no way that guy can be convicted now. He can't get a fair trial. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I wonder. This is why you don't do police interviews live on television.
You'd have to like fly people in, I guess, or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the admin. My mind was reeling watching it, thinking there's a lot of paperwork going to be filled out.
It's the same feeling you have when you watch Face Off, and you're like, well, wait a second. If you just cut the skin off, you're just going to look ridiculous.
The bone structure. Why do their voices change as well? Oh, because of the special voice modulation that you keep having to explain.
All right. Good technology. Good Batman technology. Yeah, like you said.
Why not say that they've swapped? Basically, it's Violent Freaky Friday, isn't it?
Yes.
Face Off. That's the premise.
Oh my God! Why is? I guarantee there's like a cracked article or something out there that made that point. But that's a fantastic point. You can make a whole video on how it's just Freaky Friday for men's men.
Yeah, it's Freaky Friday, but I don't want to learn about anybody else's feelings.
And it's even called something like Face Off, which is a great joke. Crap! Oh, I'm gonna feel like a jerk. I can't remember the comedian who did this one. Whatever. I'm not gonna spend 10 minutes on that, but. This comedian has a great joke. You guys can probably find it in the comments, where he was saying that the eternal sunshine of a spotless mind, if it was just called Mind Erase, it would have sold billions. You know? Like, hey babe, you want to go watch Mind Erase? Like, yeah, I think I do.
I I think I'm sure I'm plagiarizing a tweet I was going to see, but like Philip K. Dick films are all Total Recall and Blade Runner, and every book is called The Unusual Incident Where Mr. Johnson Went Somewhere on a Tuesday. Every book is like 4 paragraphs of a title.
Is he also do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, all
like,
these laugh.
you tell us, Phil. We've got no idea.
I guess the answer's inside. And then you find out the answer's not inside. But whatever.
Yeah.
They dream of unicorns.
So you were using drugs when you wrote this?
I see.
Is that a big part of your process?
Reading a lot of Carol. I see. Okay. So we got our serial killer guy. So there's a lot of questions we need answered right away. So one of them is that it depends on how kind of dark you want to go with the show, but I think that one thing that we could do that would help build the world for us is actually go with, I was talking to Josh a little bit before this, I was saying how in TV and movies, the legal system is almost like this impenetrable wall of good, right? But in real life, you can often get put in prison for like ever on like laziness. You know, it's like, hey, we were at a party or you were at a party, someone died. This one person said it was you. I don't know. Like you fit the description close enough. They said you had a red shirt, you had a blue shirt. I don't know, whatever. You're going to prison. So if we use that being a part of this world, then that could be part of how this guy gets away with it, is because he knows that, like, look, if they, you know, like for instance, they talk about, there's an interesting YouTube video where there's like cops talking about trial stuff, and one of them was saying that like you've heard that like hearsay is worthless because it's just, oh, well, he said, she said, or whatever. But he said, she said between you and a cop is very different than he said, she said, you know, between you and some dude on the street. And so, like you said, you know, it's like the mustachioed man has a lot of power just in being like, it was him. You know, they're going to start with, okay, it was probably him, until maybe something makes it seem like it's not. So he doesn't necessarily, it's not probably as much of a Herculean feat as it would seem, you know, for him to falsely implicate people.
Yeah, I've listened to the true crime podcasts, so I'm aware of the wrongful convictions. But also there's like shocking stuff like that, the sense of how reliable DNA evidence is by comparison to how reliable DNA evidence actually is. Yeah, like the people in labs are just humans, and so if they know what results the people who are sending in the material want, then they're more likely to receive those results back, because we can be influenced without even deliberately trying to scam anyone.
Yeah, I've heard that too with with expert witnesses. I've heard that a lot too. Where
there's a lot of expert witnesses where people are absolute sort of like vacuum cleaner salesmen, shyster scam artists who are professional expert witnesses.
Oh, that's awesome!
Like, I'm an expert in possession. Demonic possession or something. It's like, how have you been getting people convicted? How has this happened?
Where do you go? Did you get your certification? You know,
how do you pay the rent?
Apparently, it's a booming business.
I'm a doctor of accordions, and as an expert
in aardvark zoology. Well, right, and but you know, this lawyer was saying the same thing about expert witnesses, like you were saying about the DNA thing. It's like, if it turns out expert witness almost always agrees with the defense or the prosecution, depending on who hired the guy. You know, like, shocking, right? It's so interesting, you know? And he's like, yeah, again, even if you're not trying to scam them, people have this innate feeling of like, I don't want to let you down. So you hired me as a prosecutor to, you know, give my opinion on whatever the defense, you know, possibly did or didn't do. And when I go up there, I'm going to feel like this, almost like a loyalty to you, to try to spin it to where like, well, it could have been him, I guess, because blah, 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 blah. So these are all weak points in the system that I think our mustachioed man could, I guess we need a name for this guy. What's this guy?
I did like what's he called in Knives Out? Benoit Blanc. What accent does he have? Is that like
a Cajun accent?
Cajun, it'd be like accent. Louisiana.
Is it? Can you tell me if he's doing a good version of a Cajun accent? Because I have heard different opinions.
I can't.
Is that because you don't want to offend Daniel Craig?
No, it's because I'm from the States and it's a huge country. And like,
all right, my country's a big country. We've got accents as well.
Well, no, that's what actually. So this is another thing. I've actually had a long conversation about this before of how it's interesting how in the States, you'll have like all of Louisiana, and for the most part, there's a little bit between like the North and South, but for the most part, it's kind of the Louisiana accent. Or in California, you'll have, I'm from Northern California, but in Southern California is where you get a lot of the like clueless, dude bro, like, yo, surfer kind of thing. And so you'll kind of get that, but you'll have like tiny countries in the UK where there's like 30 different dialects. And it's like, you can like walk to an area where someone has a very different dialect than you do. And that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know what. Is it just that we don't travel? I don't. So we're an older country. I don't know why our accents change so much more rapidly than Americans do. I always assumed that. Like I remember being taught in school that America only has one accent, and it's like that is like from Boston to Texas. That's not true, is it?
It's not true one bit. But there's just a shocking. I just think there's a lot less than you would expect. And the other thing is that because it's such a ridiculously large country, like you and I have been to Louisiana the same amount of times probably. So it's like it's from the East Coast to the West Coast almost is like, yeah, I don't know what those people over there are like, And so it's a very interesting. So point being, I literally
it is helpful for a detective to be a foreigner. That I think.
Oh, like, I like that.
Like Poirot or from from Louisiana rather than from
I love that.
New England or wherever that is set. Being vaguely an alien in some way is helpful.
Yeah.
And the mysterious Daniel Craig accent that no one can follow. I'm just doing foghorn leghorn and solving crimes.
Luckily, he speaks very slowly. No,
having a mysterious accent of some kind.
Well, I guess
helps the gravitas of the detective.
Well, where is he from anyway? He has to be British, right? Because
Daniel Craig's British.
Yeah, because you have to be James Bond, right?
Yeah, yeah. You can be Scottish or English or Irish. No, Irish, because Pierce Brosnan's Irish.
That is interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I know they're kind of fast and loose with that one, aren't they?
Irish, English, or Scottish. No other nationalities allowed.
No.
Sorry.
No Welsh. I was going to say.
Has there ever been a Welsh Bond? Not to my knowledge.
Although I would love like a strong Northern accent Welshman. He's so wonderful. Have like Lee Mack. That'd be so good.
Well, he's Northwest. He's like or like a Scouse. There's never been a Liverpudlian James Bond.
Yeah, Liverpool
like
would be so good. Yeah. I mean, even like modern London would be great.
All right, Blofeld, I can't. You expecting me to die or something? Don't be ridiculous.
Or like a strong Geordie accent or something.
Oh, I'd love a Geordie.
That would be so good.
Dr. No.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, enough about Daniel Craig. So no, let's say, okay, so I guess those are great points. Those are interesting questions. So where do we want it to take place? And then where is the alien place for lack of a better word that he's coming from, because there could be some fun things with like if you had it be a British guy in Ireland, there could be like the contention there that there's already other social issues that make that more awkward, for the people, and there's already weird contention. But maybe it's the other way around. Maybe he's supposed to be a like a false Mary Poppins, where he's like, hey, I'm here to save the day, but I'm actually the bad guy. So the wolf in sheep's clothing thing makes more sense on that side.
I think the cool thing about the detective shows is that you get to explore super rich people's fancy houses.
This is true.
But the detective is allowed to poke around,
right?
Which you're never allowed to do. So you get to see their dirty laundry, for want of a better word. And so it needs to be somewhere where there are big fancy houses.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a place where the rich people go, whether that's the country houses of England or the massive Addams Family style mansions of New England.
I want to be where the people are.
Or we could set it in if we want to have some fun weird crimes, we could set it in Texas. Just to make it wacky.
Yeah. It's very
a lot of rich people flee over there.
That's what I was thinking, is that because there's also there's a lot of old money people there, oil baron.
So what is Texas old money like? Because I'm just picturing the guy from The Simpsons with the hat. I represent a group of Texans who make unwise investments. I'm just thinking of that guy. Same accent as Foghorn Leghorn.
Yes, yeah. Well, what you did there was a little bit more Texan than Louisiana. Yeah, it's So first off, old for us, like great grandfather old. And yeah, it's a lot of that is like A lot of it's oil or plantations, like land. I don't know, Josh. What else? Oh, they're old money. It's really like those two, isn't it? Like everything else is so new. It's like, tech.
Oil, and then
eventually.
there's tech stuff coming in there.
But that's
now,
not old. Like, it got started in like the 70s or whatever. So really, everything was about land and oil. All the gold. Doesn't it seem like there's no real gold, old money people? It's like it all got spent or something. There's no like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You never hear about that.
Like even the word plantation, as words go, that word has got a real stank on it.
It really does.
To the extent that I was surprised that you said it, and then I thought, well, that's what they are still. That's what they're called.
It's what it was. Yeah.
You got to plant things somewhere.
Well, that's the thing. Plantation.
I guess the same people own those plantations. That's
or
probably.
They used to own plantations, and now it's just turned into like a land thing or whatever. And so it's like my great grandfather owned a plantation or whatever, and then it was worth a fair amount still. Not to get too dark, but like slaves weren't cheap in America, so it was a real investment, So it wasn't like poor people were having slaves; it was like rich people were, where it wasn't quite like the Haiti situation where people were kind of buying them like 12 a head and stuff like that, and so they got different situations going on. I don't know why we're talking about this, but what happened?
Sorry,
no, it's fine. I'm the one bringing it up.
I think it's my fault.
But
speaking of dark, how do we make our main character likable? I think is going to be a big thing if he's framing people for crimes.
Well, I wonder if we can get away with not. I wonder if you can get some kind. Well, because Tony Soprano, I don't think is a very likable person. He is shockingly douchey, which I was surprised by watching the show. Because I did think that they would try to. Well, okay, like have you ever watched Peaky Blinders?
Only bits.
Okay, so. Tommy Shelby is wildly likable, even though he's this horrible man who's doing all these terrible things. Now, one of the things that they do a good job of is not lingering on the parts that make him horrible, and they bring you reminders every so often just to be like, hey, just remember these aren't the good guys. And then the other thing they do is they often pit them against another worse villain, and so you're like, well, that guy's super unlikable, so at least
and they've got the worst villain, and they've got his mad brother, so it's like, oh well, at least he's not as off the wall, off the rails as this other guy.
Well, and I think
sorry.
No, you're good. What's up?
Well, actually, I think the way that you humanize a detective character conventionally is the sidekick, which we don't have yet.
Yeah.
Because the Watson character is the audience stand-in, the person. So we see Sherlock Holmes can be quite acerbic and aloof and not always likable, but Watson thinks he's amazing.
Yeah,
and is always like, oh my goodness, Holmes.
Yeah, and I love the idea that he doesn't know.
Yeah. So, the sidekick couldn't possibly know.
Yeah,
that's good. I like that.
Well, that's good because then
so we have some knowledge that the sidekick doesn't have, but we get to see him through the sidekick's eyes.
And in a way, he can almost be like a weird. There's almost no supporting actor there. It's like it feels like the show could even be named after the main, the Sherlock guy, but we're really kind of following we're seeing everything. Maybe 50-50 split POVs from the Watson character because he's kind of the one that
because when is Watson going to work it out?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the is Watson ever going to twig?
Yeah.
The Watson character ever going to twig that the Sherlock character is a crook?
It just hit me. If I don't bring it up, the comments are going to light me up over this. We have stumbled upon very closely the Hannibal show, the Hannibal Lecter show.
Oh, have we? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've seen half of the first season or so. And yeah, it's about Hannibal Lecter. It's first off in the show, it's named after him, right? But then what they're doing is it's before the movies, and he's working with that detective who eventually does figure him out in the movie Red Dragon. If I recall, I think it's the same guy. So the point is that we're kind of it's that same feeling the whole time. You're kind of like 50-50 split between like hanging out, so it's all the same stuff. You have more information than the one guy does because you see what Hannibal does, you know what he's up to. So there's also like this kind of interesting cat and mouse thing where they work very closely together because the guy's having Hannibal help him solve, other murders. They turned it into a weekly, like, there's a new murderer, help us with that. But it's just because he's a psychiatrist. And so there is that tension of like, when will this guy figure out, or he gets little clues here and there, like, wait a second, like Hannibal's up to something weird. What's going on with this or whatever.
It's going to be confusing for your schedule if you're a psychiatrist and a cannibal. It's like, is this a cannibalism thing or is this a psychiatry thing? It's like, oh no.
Or he starts really
all the wrong stuff.
He starts really getting into like cannibalism details, and we're like, what part? When did you learn about this? What semester?
You just have to know these things if you're a cannibal.
Yeah. No. Psychiatry 101. Really, like they start with cannibalism. It's,
Do they in that show? Does he do the same accent as Anthony Hopkins does in the film?
Well, it's Mads Mikkelsen.
Does he have the same sort of creepy voice?
So no, it sounds like Mads Mikkelsen.
I was going to say Mads. Right.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, basically
I
just...
would like to hear Mads Mikkelsen doing Lecter's
Mads
voice.
Mikkelsen also sells that he could whoop your ass, like, in a very distinct way that you never got from Anthony Hopkins.
That's true. Anthony Hopkins, I don't know how tall he is, but he gives the impression of not being that tall.
Not being that tall. He's like,
he doesn't look physically overpowering.
Pushing
He's terrifying
60s
in the film.
Yeah. Well,
he's been pushing 60s for about 40 years.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Absolutely. And so, yeah, you end up with a very different feel, which I guess they had to, write differently for that. I mean, Ralph Fiennes played him in Red Dragon. No. Ralph Fiennes played the other killer. Right? Am I right? How does Red Dragon go? I forget. I don't know. Whatever. We're not talking about Red Dragon today. So here we go. So with our show, at least we know we have a blueprint for this kind of thing, and it kind of works. And so, yeah, we have our Watson-y kind of character, is really just trying to do good detective work, and he is maybe in awe of a man who never has, not gotten his man. And then maybe that could even be the beginning of the thing that makes him go like, no one has 100% success, case. Like, but this guy has to have one, because if they don't catch the guy, eventually, like, it could come out that it's him. So the easiest way to get people off your back is to be like, no, it was this guy. Very Salem witch trials,
Yeah.
I think it could work. I'm trying to think how we can make the audience. We have to make the sidekick character very likable.
Yeah.
To draw the audience in.
So an easy way is to do, like, episode 1, you can have it where it's the introduction episode, basically. We could even start with the Watson guy. Let's call him what are the names? Was it Joe Crime and Someone Punishment? What's that?
I did a sketch about Joe Crime and Emilio
Punishment. All right. So until we get better names, I'm down for
I'm sure we can come up with better names.
I don't know. I'm not sure. But for placeholders, okay, so we got Crime and Punishment, right? Oh, that's perfect, too, because Crime's the guy doing the... Oh, that's just the name of the show. We'll do it. Crime is the man who's doing the murders.
Yep.
And so, okay, so all right. So we're working through the pilot, right? We can have we start off with the guy. He ends up, maybe like, what's his face is, Crime is already a legend. And so Punishment is going to get like assigned as his partner. Maybe something happened to his other partner. Maybe something happened to his other partner because the other partner was getting too close.
Ooh, I like that.
And then that can be this thing that gets revealed later on, or it's like, oh, wait a second. And maybe that even is the thing that makes him start to like look more into like what actually happened to your old partner.
I feel like we might meet him at the final hearing, so he's him finally giving in evidence and being cross-examined and wowing the jury with his by withstanding cross-examination.
I love that.
Before being introduced to his new partner.
I love that because that also establishes that like this guy's got it in the bag. He goes, it's easy for him. It's like another Tuesday morning. He's like drinking a scotch before or whatever, and so he can play the audience every time because they love that Pierrot stuff, or in America it was Matlock, or something like that. A Columbo kind of thing. I'm imagining all those guys, like the lone guy, all of them are just ripoffs of Sherlock Holmes. They basically, they show up, they poke around a bunch, they seem like they're getting nowhere, and then eventually they make some unbelievably convoluted line of like, oh, well, you see, windows are normally this size, but I saw that they're this size, so you must have replaced the window.
I knew immediately from the chalk on the cuff of his sleeve that he'd travelled from Winchester.
I'm apparently like a skilled tradesman in everything, so there's nothing. If anything is off, I'll know that. Wait a second, there was a time in Bermuda when I saw blah blah blah, and I learned that.
One of the nice things in the original Sherlock Holmes novels is Watson mentions that he doesn't know anything about the planets. So he's only interested in human history. So he knows about science, but only as it pertains to crime. So he didn't know that the Earth revolved around the sun, to Watson's bafflement. Because it isn't relevant to the world of Sherlock Holmes. You don't need to know that to solve a crime. So he is a genius, but in that classic way, there are loads of things that he doesn't understand.
Yeah, they kind of made him like an idiot savant. It's like there's this one kind of thing that I'm very good. I like the idea though that he was just completely not paying attention during like primary school like science. He's like I can't be bothered with that. Tell me about the crime. So life, or he just forgot all of it. He's like, all right, not important. Okay, yeah. So I like that. So yeah, we open with that. So then maybe what happens is like it could even be our POV of like Watson walking into the room and seeing Sherlock at the court hearing doing his
I think
big
we'd
thing.
see it from... And we also get to introduce like the district attorney process. And I'll be honest, because I'm British, I don't really know what a DA is, but I know that they like to be on people's ass.
Yes.
Riding me.
DA. So I often talk about DAs without any real knowledge of what they are.
If you're following a prosecutor in a show, a lot of times it's like, the opposition is basically like the ipso facto villain of the story, especially in a show like Law and Order, which starts with
about Detectives John Law and Steve Order.
Yeah.
You saw what caught me there. I was like, it kind of is the same name, isn't it? So I don't know why we take that one seriously. Law and Order. And it starts with like it's the cops apprehending the person in the beginning, and then the second half is the lawyers like hashing it out and seeing if they can actually pin it on the guy. And
do they ever fail to? Do they ever get the wrong person and send them down? Or do they ever fail to convict someone who definitely did do it?
It's funny you bring that up because pretty much no show ever did that until there was one show that made that like the whole conceit of the show. Do you remember what that was, Josh? There was a law show where they would go through the whole thing, and then at the end,
it was the podcast Serial, wasn't it?
That was the one. It was.
I'm kidding.
No, they would. And what would happen is after the court hearing would happen and the verdict would go, then they would do not a reenactment, but they would show you what actually happened. And so sometimes they got it right, and sometimes they got it wrong. And I was like, you know what?
Oh, I like that.
That's a good way to kind of move it forward. Yeah, to push that genre forward because it was stale. They always catch them. It's always like the first guy that they talk to, who was like, oh, I wasn't there. I have an alibi. Okay, it must not be you. And then they talk to 3 more guys and then realize, oh, it was the first guy. Never mind. It's like, it's always the same crap.
Because you can't introduce the character who did it 5 minutes before the end.
No.
He can't just turn up and delivering flowers and then go,
the worst.
it was him! He needs
random
to have delivered flowers at the start of the episode.
Although it's kind of funny is that
rules.
a fair amount of movies do that. I feel like I see that more in movies where it's like, oh, it was this man who, like got introduced in the third act. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think... No, I guess True Detective narrowly gets out of that one because they did kind of show the guy about the midpoint of the season, but it is like the midpoint of the season or something. It's still a while in, and so by the time you realize that, it was that guy, you're like, well, okay.
And Seven has the Kevin Spacey character appear earlier in the film, which only worked back when you didn't know who Kevin Spacey was. Because now when you watch it, it's like, why was Kevin Spacey playing that one guy? Yeah. That was weird.
Absolutely. In like 97, No, that's a great point. Yeah.
It's really noticeable now.
That's a problem. And there's a lot of directors who I appreciate that they do hire less wildly famous people. Or if you're going to do that, then make that like the red herring or something, I remember even seeing the sci-fi film Life with Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. And I was like, there's 2 like A-list leads in this movie. That seems expensive. I got a feeling one of these guys is not long for this earth. And then sure enough, someone is in the movie for like 15 minutes. I was like, okay, that makes okay, yeah. So I guess, all right. So we do have to have a crime if you're going to kick off with your pilot episode. We want to get into that, relatively quickly. So he's coming off of the last one. He basically nails it. Maybe when he's like walking out into the, turns out I'm not a lawyer either. When he's out in the hallway,
the lobby.
They call it the law hall. The law lobby, I believe they're called.
Blah, blah, blah. And so, when they get out there...
Pops into the law toilets.
The law... Yes, and...
does his law business and then out into the law car park.
No. He goes to the law toilets, crime does, and punishment comes and pees right next to him. Like, hey, I'm going to be working with you. I'm really excited to meet you.
I'm so excited to be on the case with you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so he's also from Boston for no reason.
So I don't know what...
we never picked where we were going, by the way. Yeah,
we don't know where we are. It's clearly America because we've got a district attorney.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, okay, I guess so. All right, is there anywhere... I mean, it's always New York, right? I guess it would just have to be like New York. No one really...
Or Massachusetts, because that's, that's like... that is Boston, isn't it? But like that's got big houses and sort of a Lovecrafty feel.
You know what? It's cold, too.
I could believe it. And it snows, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm retarded. New York... we can't use that word anymore. But New York is also very cold. But yeah, I like Massachusetts. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
let's do Massachusetts, yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally into that. So great. Another place I'm going to have to do some research on, but we...
Yeah, I don't know anything about Massachusetts, having suggested it.
I know that it's very cold. I know that there's water near Canada. That's about... I know probably as much as the average...
And you can do the X-Files thing of filming in Canada, because presumably it was cheaper or something. and just passing it off.
It's like everything is shot in Vancouver for some reason. Like New York is shot in Vancouver. Like everything's shot in Vancouver.
Like the first few series of X-Files, it's really grey and moody, and then they started shooting in the States, and it's like, why is the sun shining? I don't like to be able to see the sun in this show.
It's all beautiful and green all the time. Yeah, it's all great.
What happened to the pine trees and the clouds?
I love that bit in Austin Powers where he's like, turns out the UK looks a whole lot like Southern California. It's got all the same red dirt and everything. So I guess he would have already... Okay, so I guess here we got to figure out his MO, right? So and then also got to figure out what his who he's killing anyway. And maybe that's a connection. Maybe he's killing people who he's already scouted out that he thinks he could, like, maybe he looks for people who have contention in the family, or maybe have bad partner deals and stuff like that. And so then he goes and kills one of the people and then tries to get it pinned on the partner.
Do we establish what his reason is for killing people?
Yes, I think we should. I have no idea.
You could have a sort of an arguably good motive. You could be killing bad people and framing other bad guys for the crime. So you could be trying to fight injustice in your own way.
Yeah, we could.
By just taking the law into your own hands.
I think we would need to put some kind of voice on that, though, like unique voice on that, because I think we'd be dangerously close to Dexter at that point.
I have also not seen Dexter. Is that what Dexter does?
That's literally what Dexter does. Yeah.
It's really easy to invent these shows.
It is. You just
I wasn't even really trying them. I just came out with 2 hit shows.
You could have had 6 seasons or whatever. How many did they get?
Yeah, the fact that they already exist is irrelevant. If I thought of this 12 years ago,
you would have had 6 seasons of Dexter.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you would have got Michael C. Hall. Yeah, so that's what Dexter's about.
Well, then it's got the opposite of that, and he's just bad. It's bad guy.
Bad man. So,
no, that's because that's Hannibal again, isn't it? So he's okay.
It's okay. So
like a middling guy.
The idea with Dexter is that he has what he calls his dark passenger, and he basically is compelled to murder people. So he tries to put it into a productive area, and he kills people who basically. So he works for the police. He is a what's it called? He does blood. He's a blood splatter analysis
forensic
guy. Yeah.
Type.
So because of that, what happens is a lot of times he'll have maybe illegal evidence or something on why a person actually did do the murder, and then they get off, and then he'll go and find them and murder them himself. And then of course he's also having to help his own PD trying to find him the whole time. He has a name. He's like the whatever Bay Butcher or something like that, so he's always trying to keep them off of him. But he disposes of the bodies, right? And so with this guy, he's actually kind of done something a little bit more clever by making it where it's everyone just thinks they already got the guy. They're not out there looking for so-and-so or whatever. They think they got the right person. It's just that there's a bunch of, wrongfully accused people in jail, which also makes him hellaciously unsympathetic in comparison to Dexter, know? Because there's all these, even if he was going out and killing bad guys who needed killing, the people who he's framing probably don't need framing, unless we're kind of doing double Dexter, where it's I killed a bad man and then framed another bad man. So it's kind of his job's
be that many bad men.
His job is cubed harder than Dexter. It's crap, I found one, I gotta find the other one, and then I gotta draw a connection.
The other question when it comes to the crime is, do we see him commit the crime and we know how it actually happened up top, or are we unpicking it as we go? Because when do we get on board with the plan?
What would be kind of fun, because I think there are a handful of ways to skin that cat. I think one way that could be fun would be if towards the end, when because Puro or whoever, they always give that big speech of okay, I'll finally let you guys know what I've known the whole time, or what I kind of figured out because I had a small hunch and I found the chalk on his sleeve. So this happened, and maybe what we do is while he's going through and explaining, and then you normally do intercuts back to whatever he's talking about. Instead, we do intercuts to what actually happened. That could be kind of fun. So he's so then Susan the maid came through the back door or whatever, but then it actually shows him climbing in through the window or something like that, So because he could also plant evidence. He could plant false evidence.
But in order to keep it intriguing, it has to seem like he couldn't have committed the crime from our point of view.
Right.
So I guess the question is, it seems like it would have been impossible for him to have done it. So how did he manage to do it? It becomes kind of for them it's a whodunit, but for us it's a howdunit. We know it was him.
Yeah, right.
But it seems like the murder happened at a time when we know he was somewhere else or whatever it is, so we know that he couldn't have done it.
Well, you're right. He has to establish basically his own alibis as well. But on the other hand, also he also knows that he's not going to be a suspect pretty much ever. I mean, it's kind of the issue we see a lot of times too with like police and detectives and stuff who we find out later, years later, had done all of these horrible things. It's like no one's looking at the police and detective force to see, well, maybe they killed someone. It's like, no, those are the good guys.
I don't think a police officer could commit a crime.
Yeah, come on, he is the law.
And be reasonable.
I've seen Judge Dredd. I know. No. It's impossible. Right, or as Richard Nixon famously said, I think that if the president does it, it shouldn't be illegal. So
yeah,
it's like, whoa.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, really. I think the Ayatollah had a similar idea too.
Oh God.
I think most kings had a similar idea too.
Yeah.
So
and also it makes you realize that Nixon probably talked about himself in the third person. Like when you're the president, you say the president.
Yeah.
Like you can't. Just say me. Say I.
If I
Otherwise,
do it,
like
yeah.
Richard Nixon. When Richard Nixon does it, it's okay.
There's too much implication there. You want to distance yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I did anything wrong, but I'm saying that if any president were to do a thing.
Oh, right. So is the president in the room with us now, Richard?
Can you point
Stop
at the president?
Stop blaming things on the president.
Well, see, the thing is, though, I think that we, because of the nature of the show, I think we always know that it's him, right? So it's not, I don't know, if, it's not necessarily that it needs to not look like it's him. Like you said, it needs to be more of the just like, how did he pull this off? But like you were saying earlier, there is an opportunity for us to actually let the person know ahead of time. I just don't know where you place that. But if we do know how he did it ahead of time, then there would be a different game you're playing while watching the show. And the game would be how, now that we know how he did it, how does he fit anyone else into the places he needs them to be? The chess pawns need to be in the right positions to make it look like it was them instead of him.
So it's not quite a Columbo where we know what it is and the drama is just how is it going to fall out. It's almost more like maybe even a heist structure where it's where his plan needs to go off without a hitch, except of course there will be a hitch,
of course, right.
And then it scrambles and will everything happen in the way that it needs to happen in order to implicate the people he wants.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That.
I like that a lot. I do like that. So what? Yeah. So I wonder. So then, Act 1, you got to think about establishing that stuff, right? So what if? Oh man, because Watson's not in on it. If you're gonna have heist, then that implies planning, and so.
But that makes that gives me the imagery of Clockwork because he's arranging people like gears in a clock, which makes me think that his obsession needs to be repairing antique watches and clocks.
Super into that.
Love it.
Because he needs some quirky and specific knowledge that would not be relevant to any case ever.
Oh yes. And he's
inexplicably is quite a lot.
And he uses it for metaphors way too often.
Yeah. And just the imagery of it,
like the hands of a clock. like yeah, I guess.
Did you know that clock faces don't use the Roman numerals for 4? They use 4 individual lines. That's relevant to absolutely nothing. I don't know why I know that, but it's true and could be involved in a murder mystery.
As you were saying that, I was like, wait a second, I have seen that. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? That's the kind of irrelevant detail that could be in a murder mystery.
He'll use that for like one of the... Okay, so this is kind of like in Inglourious Bastards, there's a scene where one of the people orders 3 drinks and he does the American 3 instead of the German 3. And so
is that the German 3?
This one, right? I thought it was this one. Yeah. This is mine.
The German 3, because that one's for Hitler. So
got it. Okay, now
extra drink for the Führer.
Now it makes sense.
It's very rude not to.
Yeah, right. You got to pour one out all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when he was still alive during that movie.
Exactly. That would have been sedition, wouldn't it? Pouring one out for Hitler while he was alive. Who set he on? Hans.
And that's what happens when you use the American 3. So
yes.
Or I think he was British, whatever. So point being that someone could do something like that, and then he would bring that to like, it's like the 4 and how it actually it's supposed to look like this, but they made it look like this, which is wrong, you see. And so everything has to do with clocks. You can work it all in. No, I like that a lot. And then so then you can have like him, he talks to himself, because also like Dr. House is based on Sherlock too, so you can have like a modern take. So you kind of have like he talks to himself, he's kind of maybe we're
That's
with
another
him.
English actor doing some interesting American accent.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Oftentimes they go interesting, so that it doesn't happen.
I like that. Like Anthony Hopkins who's Welsh, obviously, but his Hannibal Lecter. But like, you do get an interesting accent out of it. Whether it's a real accent or not isn't really that important.
Yeah, if you can find a second person or not, it's still pretty interesting.
It's from a very small village where like one person lives,
like
and
that.
that's the accent.
Well, I've always said that about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, first off, I have a friend who's British who has been here for like 20 years, so you would never know unless they get on the phone talking to their mom or something like that. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's been here for like, what, 50 years and still sounds like he just came off of the boat. On top of that, I've never heard a second Austrian person who sounds like him.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard that when they were dubbing his movies into German, because they mostly dub rather than subtitle, he volunteered to dub his own lines.
Oh, interesting.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And they said, no, because the problem is you're Austrian, so to them he sounds like a farmer. So it's like,
got it.
Because they have the associations of his accent for a German is like it's like a sort of who are Farmer Giles, or I guess a redneck kind of, I don't know, a hill people voice.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah. Okay, so back to the show. That's why it's hard for me to do topical podcasts, because I normally do the Joe Rogan thing and we just kind of end up all over the place. Okay, sweet. So where did we leave off? We had a murder of some sort.
Massachusetts.
I think I started talking about accents again.
Yeah, so we're in Boston. We have our serial killer. We have not figured out why he kills people. Oh yeah, we're in Massachusetts, not necessarily Boston.
He's obsessed with clocks, which I love.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I do really like the clock thing. You know what also is good about clocks is also like it's very meticulous and you have to take them apart and there's a lot of like pieces and stuff like that. So we can really get into him with the like dissecting people and stuff. No, but that's the thing. You got to be careful with that, because then if there's too consistent of an MO, then he can't pin it on other people all the time, because it's like you're telling me everyone does that kind of thing. So what if, but that could actually be part of the show too, is that he has he actually has to come up with a new MO every time, which gets kind of hard, or maybe if it's not an MO, it's just a matter of like, the most like clue, like kill someone with a candlestick or something like that, it's actually, if you can't get people in the same room, it is kind of hard. It'd be kind of funny if almost push us into like the comedic realm would be if he literally created, what do you call them? Or if he looked for like whodunit scenarios. So he's like, oh, I go and kill people at like dinner parties and then show up to be like, there's been a murder. I suspect foul play. I think it was one of you.
Yeah, like the sort of the Jessica Fletcher retconning, where she was the person behind the murder that happened every week in her life.
Which show was that?
Actually, that's Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, okay, Jessica Fletcher. Okay, yeah. What's great about Murder, She Wrote...
I assumed everybody knew the name of the protagonist from Murder, She Wrote, but...
It's been a very long time. I did watch it a lot as a child.
Yes, okay, it may not have been on TV for the last 40 years.
No, it probably is. Probably some channel somewhere that just plays like nothing but those shows from that specific time period. Angela Lansbury, what's great about Murder, She Wrote is that, what's the place called, something Cove or something like that? In fiction, it has the highest murder per capita, because there's like however many episodes and there's a murder every week, but there's only like a population of like 3,000 people or something like that. So it's like you guys live in hell.
The British equivalent is Midsummer Murders, is that the stock joke, because a small region, Oxfordshire-like region, which has again,
that's had like hundreds of murders, and you're just like, you guys are.
I don't think any of them beat the island from Death in Paradise, though. Considering, I'm amazed that the tourist industry continues. People are still going there on holiday, even though a murder happens every single week on a tiny Caribbean island.
And to the point where you have to be like, man, it works out like 33% of your population is murderers.
Yeah, it's like when something like what happened, like a British tourist gets murdered overseas, everybody stops going to that country for a long time until we forget about the murder.
Everyone got real mad about, or not everyone, I think Germany got real mad about Hostel, because they're like, hey, you're going to creep everyone out. No one's going to want to come here. They think they're going to get murdered.
Yeah, because up until then, nobody had heard anything bad about Germany.
Yeah, nothing at all. Those poor guys, man.
I really like Germany. Lots of German friends. So no offense. Please don't take offense, Germany.
So serial killer, right? So
in the spirit of underestimating the audience. How do we get this show off the ground?
Off the ground. All right. We have kind of the beginning figured out. We just need, I don't know. I just think it's so goofy that he would have to go and specifically do, well, I mean, because that's the thing too. If we're doing the murder mystery thing, it kind of, one of the key tenets you have to have is like a bunch of people in a room, basically, right?
Yeah.
So if we're not doing that, we're kind of doing something else. So I think we have to kind of figure out how to get it to be that. But again, if he killed like Uncle Joe or something a week ago and then he finally gets discovered, then he could be the one who's like, okay, I'm calling in the whole family. I think this is the game and the fun part of the show. When I say game, I mean like Keegan-Michael Key from Key and Peele was talking about, did you ever see the skit where it's the A.A. Ron skit? He's the new teacher and he's from the inner city, but he's come to like a posh part of town. And right. So he was saying that there's a game you're playing with the audience in that episode, right? Or in that skit. He's like, what we're doing is I say A.A. Ron and then it turns to, or he starts with Jay Quellen and he's like, you're expecting some ghetto black girl. We turn around and it's this girl who's like, Jacqueline. So now you understand what the game is and you're trying to decode the names before they show who the person was or what the name was. So then when he knocks out A.A. Ron, you're engaged. You're like, okay, A.A. Ron. Oh, it's probably Aaron, so it's that kind of thing, right? So I think that's important with like 22-minute shows is to have like a game that you're kind of playing with them, it makes you engaged. And I think the game is him showing up with all of these people and then being like, okay, who is it gonna be? So I have to now interview you guys to try to figure out who has the weakest alibis and who maybe had issues and possibly some kind of motive. And so I almost like the idea that he plays a dangerous game called knife tennis, but he also plays a more dangerous game where he is doing these murders and then having to like figure out on the fly. Maybe he's like so impressed with his own skills that on the fly he's like, okay, I'm gonna get the confessions from these people and figure out, okay, this guy has a motive but this guy has the weakest alibi. Maybe I can put them both together, or maybe I can say this one did it for the other one. And if I can convince also the family or the implicated peoples to turn on that person too and go, oh my god, Marta, how could you, then I've kind of won already, and everything from there will be smooth sailing.
I'm wondering if we could borrow something from, do you know Kind Hearts and Coronets, the Ealing comedy?
I do not.
From it's Alec Guinness, who you know off of the Star Wars.
Yeah.
Before he was in Star Wars, when he was a serious actor. No, he was in quite a few Ealing comedies, British films from the, I think possibly late 40s, early 50s. Kind Hearts and Coronets is a wonderful film in which he, in order to inherit lots of money, has to murder all of his relatives.
Okay.
In order to inherit, and all of the relatives are played by Alec Guinness. So Alec Guinness plays. It's like
awesome.
It's like a classy version of Eddie Murphy's Nutty Professor, but with Alec Guinness instead of Eddie Murphy.
Well, yeah. What's it called again?
So it's very funny, but it's really just a dark comedy in the Arsenic and Old Lace vein,
right?
In which he has to try and knock off a series of people, one after the other. So what I'm wondering is, does he have people who are all shareholders who are all in his way? So he has to knock off these people, and he doesn't know how he's going to. He doesn't. There's nothing that connects them. He doesn't know how he's going to do it. So this is the person he has to knock off. And as you say, he has to improvise after that in order to try and get through this line of people because he's going somewhere in particular.
That is very interesting. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Or like they're all members of a tontine or whatever that thing is where the last person standing gets the money. I don't know.
Well, but what it could be is it could be a list of like maybe there's like executives of some company who like have hurt him somehow. Maybe they're a part of some other conspiracy. That so then he's basically taking, the justice upon himself. And that's actually kind of neat because now we can give him some kind of like righteous indignation, which covers Josh's concern of him being too unlikable. Now people are like, okay, I don't like the guy, but I get it, And so, then that can also give us something interesting to do with the Watson character because maybe the audience is hoping that like, I want him to find out and then I want him to go, oh, I understand.
I like that a lot.
That could be very interesting. And then maybe that's where you play with like, you have like so this is more like a mini series now.
That's I was just saying. Now the problem is now you've got a British drama series
Right.
which runs for 8 episodes and then everybody dies of exhaustion and that's it, rather than an American series that runs forever until the audience dies.
That's exactly
of obesity and exhaustion.
It's interesting. It is interesting though, because we are borrowing that model a lot more. One of the first things is that The Sopranos helped popularize doing even just like season arcs, instead of it being like every episode is just kind of. And that's the thing we've noticed for our show, is that like initially I had the idea of us doing kind of the episodic King of Queens thing, but that's not even like the norm for TV anymore. Everything's kind of Game of Thrones now. And they're not
hugely the HBO sort of model,
right?
You're basically doing like a Russian novel with 100 characters, but it's just one story from start to finish. It's not Monster of the Week, Murder of the Week, then there's ones that sort of sit halfway between that, where a Monster of the Week structure leads you into a big arcing narrative. We didn't even have the concept of narrative arcs until recently in Britain. British writers didn't even talk about that because I guess because it's defined in relation to the standard discrete, everything goes back to normal like a sitcom American structure, where it's like it's law and then it's order. Then back to law, then back to order. Right. And then that's it. And so your writers obviously went, no, what if we did arcs? Whereas British writers, I don't know, we didn't have the term.
Well, did you not have the term because you were just already doing it, basically?
Maybe. On the other hand, we've done plenty of sitcoms where everything goes back to normal at the end of the sitcom. But then our series is run for so little time because our writers are all underpaid.
Is that really what's going on?
Alcoholics who just get as many jokes out as they can and then are thrown onto
a funeral pyre.
Well, I'm trying to think of the American word for it. Dumpster, that's what you call it.
Okay, what do you call it?
Thrown into a dumpster. I don't remember what the English name for them is, but it's not dumpster.
Like the big bins.
The large bin.
Yeah, the large
big
bin. There's Big Ben. I said Big Ben, not Big Ben. Oh, no. That's for our comedy.
I'm calling them the Big Bin from now on.
The big bits.
Like, where? What? So, here. So, no, I love that. I actually think that's really great. Yeah, so let's think about because that's the thing too. We talked about earlier how sometimes what you do is you have a worse villain to offset the villain, so that and even the Hannibal show does that. Hannibal is polite and nice, and he cooks nice food. Even if they're not what you'd call likable, if you can make them admirable, I think that also helps. And so I think people are softer on people who are highly skilled for whatever reason. Well, I don't know. In America, we're very into like the get it done by yourself, so if you're a skilled person, you have value. And so, everyone wants to be a cowboy. So you have Breaking Bad. It's like, even though Walter White has all of these problems and he's, this sociopathic, killer, it's like, there's still something that goes like, yeah, but look what he did with nothing, It's like, he went and built this whole empire. And so I think with our character as well, him being good at his job enough to be able to pin it on people, I think is a skill. But also if we have him be at least enough more likable than all of the targets he has to go get.
Yes. You can't have him murdering people that we'd feel sorry for.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be cigar chomping businessmen and corrupt lawyers.
Right. Oh, what if it's that?
Actually, like you say, oil tycoons, but who are on holiday from Texas to Massachusetts.
Of course.
What if it's what if it's like a law firm or something like that, and he's taking down all these like partners or something like that?
Yeah, nobody likes it's like estate agents. Sorry, realtors. Just an entire job category where people are just happy to go, yep, evil. Just take it as.
That's funny. I don't know if realtors have that.
Do they not have that? Yeah, that's the reason, because you've got more land. Maybe realtors in New York then.
Are they like real corrupt or something? Is it
it's just really hard to get a house.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
And so everybody hates estate agents.
That's funny that they blame them.
You've got loads of space. So you're like, when you've got like every one of your sort of Midwestern sort of Spielbergy Stranger Things houses,
right? Exactly.
They're just so palatial to us. The houses are like massive, and like the kids just hang out in the garage, which has more than the room that you would need for a car.
For a
in
whole
it.
House, yeah.
It's like that's bigger than my flat.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Apartment.
There
is the American word.
There is a lot of that. I'm with you on flats. I'm with it. You even hear people saying stuff like that over here. That's going to be an interesting one too. Is hearing like because of media, America owned almost like all of media for like what 30 years or 50 years or something like that. So there's been so much influence coming from our direction out to the rest of the world. It's going to be really interesting.
Americans, you started to know what wanker means. I've noticed very recently.
We also know. I think, or I'm trying to think what the average American would know versus me, who watches panel shows all the time. But I think I hear the phrase "take the piss" a lot more than I used to in America.
You need. Maybe the Trump presidency made it an essential. Just America was crying out for a concept, and take the piss stepped up.
It was here for us in our time of need.
Yeah, because he was taking the piss. Like even him being elected was taking the piss, and as a consequence, we responded by taking the piss.
Right, yeah.
It's a very very important phrase.
Or the idea that like being pissed is being drunk.
Oh yeah.
Which we don't use that word. I actually wonder how we got it.
There's a really confusing line in Friends, which is when Phoebe is saying something about physics which isn't true, and there's a knock at the door, and Chandler says, "Watch out, it's Isaac Newton," and he's pissed, meaning it's Isaac Newton, and he's
angry.
mad, he's angry, because what she said about physics wasn't true, which is not as good a joke.
No, it's not.
As the accidental joke they wrote.
That's a better
joke. She says something that's impossible, and he says, "Watch out, it's Isaac Newton," and he's pissed.
And he's drunk.
That's better.
That's actually a
they
better
accidentally
joke.
wrote a good joke. So in Britain, we were chuckling away at completely the wrong joke.
I like how you haven't seen Peaky Blinders, but you're that honed in on Friends.
Yes, I am a man of my mid-30s, and I have seen many episodes of the sitcom Friends.
Like, I'm a worldly man. I wanted to taste American media, see what they were all about over in the States. What are the colonies doing these days? Okay.
Yeah, I had a Rachel. You know, we all did. It was very popular.
Is that what you're? Yeah.
I meant that's what we called the haircut. I don't know if that.
No, we did. No, that was huge.
The swoopy.
It was absolutely a thing over here. Yeah, absolutely. Like the specifically Rachel Bob. Or honestly, it was a thing where like whatever her hair was, you would the next month everyone had that haircut kind of thing. But I was we're about the same age, I assume. So I was like very young.
I didn't really have that hair.
When it was culturally
my friends
relevant,
did start slicking their hair back with gel, like Ross did.
I like the idea that Ross being an aspirational character for anybody.
Yeah, and then you watch back and it's like, this guy's awful. He's the worst one.
He's also like in the show is like kind of the punching bag, like they never misrepresented him as being cool. So it's interesting to be like, yeah, I want to look like that guy. I want to look like David Schwimmer, who I don't think has ever played a likable character. Because he's also in Band of Brothers, and he's pretty rough in that one too. I wouldn't want his haircut in that either. Okay, so I think we kind of have the structure. It's just the hard part, which would be hard to write here, would be actually breaking down him doing like the interviews and stuff. That would be like the work part of this episode, to be like really sitting there and just like trying to make the most complicated, convoluted. But I think we kind of worked out the show, right? You've got crime and punishment. And you've got Joe Crime has been, he's on like a holy crusade for vengeance.
Yeah, he's a man on a mission now.
And he uses his exemplary skills to bring punishment to all of these men. Maybe he has a distinguished career. Maybe he hasn't begun committing crimes yet. Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the first thing is him failing to get his conviction for the first time, and as a consequence, it's necessary for him to begin a campaign. If justice can't be done and the evil lawyers network won't be dismantled,
right?
He'll have to do it himself.
I love it.
How to avoid conviction?
Yeah. No, I love this.
Framing. By using his cop skills to frame people.
Well, man, see now I'm like almost changing the entire show. Now I'm thinking, what if he only ends up killing like the one person who was like really, really specifically involved in whatever the conspiracy thing that took him down. We should name that, by the way. Maybe, I don't know. Is there any reason that they would want to like maybe like his? Okay, what if it's something like this? What if it's like his wife died because of some kind of faulty product or something that some company was using, and then like the law firm who protected them? What's that movie with Michael Clayton, right, with George Clooney about Monsanto? Basically, it was like not Monsanto, but
it was.
And the whole thing was about like there was this.
I like the way you did air quotes there, so that the algorithms reading the subtitles will assume that, oh, not Monsanto. Fair enough. That's not actionable.
More importantly, Monsanto can't come get me.
Yeah, I think air quotes are a legal defense, aren't
I think
they?
Absolutely.
I think in court that stands up.
The prosecution will try to just play the audio, and the defense will be like, wait, we got video.
My lord, with respect, I did air quotes when I said I'm going to murder him. So
Did they say I'll allow it in England?
yeah, sorry, my lord. Of course, my lord is a very, very English court thing.
Well, you know
I
what?
don't think judges ever allow anything. They wear wigs. It's so weird.
For some stuff, I think
it's so
we
weird
actually
that they
do.
wear wigs.
Someone was talking about that. I think the Supreme Court or someone like that. There's like some kind of
so
specific
weird.
stuff where it comes up. Well, it's just old things.
It comes from
don't
a
go
time
away.
when, like 300 years ago, everyone wore wigs all the time, and
right.
judges just kept doing it, and nobody noticed that. We stopped with the wigs. It's so weird that you wear wigs.
The syphilis thing kind of got figured out. We don't need wigs anymore. Yeah, I wonder if like there was that one poor guy who tried taking it off, and everyone was like,
No.
Or just came in with a Rachel Bob, and people went, I'm not feeling it.
They're like, I don't know.
It doesn't feel
in a couple
courty.
years maybe. So what always fascinates me too is how quickly our accent became nothing like the British. It hasn't been that long.
I guess it's the mingling, like the way in the South London accent has changed over the last years because of because of immigration and because of demographic changes. You get different influence. One of the things I've noticed is that when I was a kid, when Americans did impressions of English people, they used to do a sort of John Cleese bowler hat classic.
Yes.
Hello there, Mary Poppins,
Yes.
kind of Australian.
Hello, governor.
Chip, top of the morning too, and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And now, I think because they're probably listening to grime artists more, it's a weird mix now. So they slip between a sort of Keira Knightley and Stormzy. So like it's got much more of a working class South London inflection to it. And I hear people sort of making jokes about bottle of water with all the glottal stops.
Yes.
Which is a London way.
I was going to say very London, right? Right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that
And Stormzy,
so
very
where
much so.
Americans must be hearing these accents through music because these artists have reached a world stage.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't be surprised how many people are also just consuming like actual shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah,
because
we're all online all the time.
We had. We had Jersey Shore, and you guys have Geordie something, right? Is it Geordie Shore?
Geordie Shore, yes.
Yeah, right. And so it's like I could imagine that there would be people who are like, "Oh, there's another one," and it's like everything's on Netflix now, whatever. I watched, I found Peaky Blinders just because it was on Netflix, and it was like, a Netflix original, and I was like, no, it says right here, BBC, whatever.
Yeah. It's a BBC.
Okay, so we've got Joe Crime.
Can we call it the Clockmaker or something?
Ooh, I like that.
100%.
The Clockmaker.
Absolutely.
Because I know clocks so far don't have anything to do with maybe clocks should be in some way connected to how his wife died. I don't know.
Well, I think that we would probably. That would probably come up with the metaphors and stuff like that, with the actual dialogue stuff, and so that's why we don't. That's why it doesn't feel super connected. But I think it would be that thing where when you work out the actual details of the show, it'd be like, you see, it's just like clockwork. What
his name is John Clock or something?
What if the show's just called Clockwork?
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
You into that? Okay. All right, cool. So, Clockwork on Thursdays at 7. Or at
Clockwork.
Yeah, that's it. So we've got John Clock, and he who was John?
Simon Work.
No. Who was John Locke's contemporary that had the opposite opinion on?
Jack Shepherd.
Was it Jeremy Bentham?
I can't remember. You said it was. Wait, are you thinking Lost?
Adam Smith.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I mean the real John Locke.
I was thinking English philosophers of the.
No, I was
18th
too.
century.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the guy John Locke in Lost is based on John Locke, the English philosopher.
Right.
Who was his contemporary? I totally forgot the other guy's name. You can probably
Jeremy
tell who.
Bentham, you were right.
Is it Bentham? Adam Smith? I don't know.
No, Hobbes. That's what I'm thinking of.
Hobbes.
Thomas Hobbes. Hobbes and Locke. So
rather than Calvin, the other.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, wait a second, Hobbes. Yeah, Hobbes had, if I recall, John Locke had the theory on, because they both talked about like the natural state of humanity, right? And so John Locke had this idea that the natural state was horrible and everyone was just bonking each other in the head and taking women and trying to murder each other for food.
Yeah.
And Hobbes had the idea that no, everyone was like lying around and eating papaya and being friends and stuff like that. And so
yeah, they're like the two guys you lived with at university in terms of their ideas. Yeah. It's like the world is terrifying, or like no, it'll be fine.
Hakuna Matata, man.
I do the essay on the morning of the to hand them in.
It'll be fine. Let's go to that party. So John Locke and no, here we go. Thomas Locke and John Hobbes are our protagonist, and we have the opening is basically Locke, who is in court and trial. He's generally this incredible lawyer. He always has like this amazing win rate, but he can sniff out there's some kind of corruption. He ends up losing this case where his wife, died from exposure to weed killer or something.
A footnote or something better than weed killer.
Or something better.
OBO. And so then he takes it upon himself because of that. So maybe that's not even, we don't even introduce Hobbes yet, so he from there gets on this kind of vigilante grind, and now he wants to go. And so maybe we even follow him through. Maybe the first episode is just him actually committing that first murder, and then the rest of the show, that's what I was going to say earlier about changing the whole format of the show. There's a possibility that he doesn't need to murder multiple times. The rest of the show could be him going around, just every episode is him like, okay, here's the next guy. I have to get him implicated, and that he's trying to create a grand conspiracy to implicate, like almost like a RICO case, to implicate all of these guys at once for this murder of like maybe the guy who was the boss or something like that.
Okay. Yes, so he takes down the head and then has to frame all of the lieutenants
who would have or
vice versa,
who all would have filled in. Maybe there's like a power vacuum, and he knows that like just taking out this one guy won't change anything because the entire organization is so corrupt, and so I have to go and try to get all of these guys individually. So then what's happening is that the creepy cat and mouse thing is from his partner, and so he has to play this game of like trying to utilize the partner in a way where he's useful to him, but also having to not give up too much information where the partner ends up catching him. And then maybe as the relationship develops, he starts to develop this kind of trying to manipulate the guy to like, can I get this guy on my side? Can I kind of like spin honey in his ear, over time, little bit by little bit, and see if I can get him to understand. Whenever he has an opportunity to point out some kind of corruption or something, he sees if he can kind of radicalize the guy on it, before being like, well, I've kind of already done something,
That's a very cheeky way of admitting to a crime.
I've kind of already done something.
Well, whenever I admit to a crime, I like to make sure that the people over here can't hear the crime.
Don't tell anyone.
I just use this device. Between you and I've committed a crime.
And then, of course, because it's a miniseries, Hobbes stays true, and he does take him to prison. And maybe, Locke isn't even mad about it, because it's like, well, the revenge is got. It's all over, I guess. It's, well,
you know what? I'm not even mad. Not even mad about it.
What was I going to do after this? Well, it certainly wasn't going to go play golf.
I think that's a cracking show. I would watch it.
I think I would watch it.
Yeah.
Clockwork.
So, Alasdair Beckett-King, I had a blast. I hope you had fun too with our.
I did. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, no,
what fun.
Thank you so much for coming on. Where
I
can
can't
people
wait
find
for the
you?
royalties to start rolling in.
Rolling in. I'll send you weekly analytic announcements.
Thank you. I can't wait to go through an Excel spreadsheet with nothing but zeros in every column.
We'll do we'll have an arbitrator kind of work out the. So, where can people find you, sir?
I'm on Twitter at Mr. ABK, spelled MISTERABK, and I'm a Beckett-King on YouTube. If you want to see those sketches that I was talking about,
I recommend them.
They're quite good. It used to be that if you just Googled Diegesis, I came up, but now Ed Sheeran comes up, so I'm on like page 10.
I hate to do this because we're supposed to be closing up, but can I ask you real quick? Yeah, the main, it's like
this thing, yeah,
it's incredible.
Thank you.
The first
is that the question?
It kind of is. It seems like a lot of care. Did you first notice? Oh, I have glorious red hair. I should do something with this, or were you just like, I don't feel like cutting my hair. We'll just see what happens.
No, I think people sometimes think that I grew the hair long for comedy effect. this is what my hair was like, and then
Right.
I began to try and write
Doing
jokes.
comedy.
Obviously, I do some jokes about the hair, but this is just how it is. It's not. I don't.
Yeah.
This is it in the state of nature. As,
It's pretty
our protagonist
it's
would say.
impressive. Not just everybody's got a head of hair like that. It's pretty happening, especially that nice copper shade.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So I just figured if I didn't bring it up at least once, people they'd think I was.
Yeah. What I've discovered, having suddenly gained YouTube followers, YouTube subscribers for the first time, is they are very personal, making comments about your face. And I didn't. I wouldn't want to be a teenager on YouTube because
really.
every second comment is, "Where is this dude's eyebrows?" Dude, you forgot to put eyebrows in your video. He did all that VFX and he didn't give himself eyebrows. It's like
God was like, "Hey, look, here's the deal."
This is just what my face looks like.
He's like, "You either get all this or you get luscious eyebrows. You don't get both."
How can he have hair everywhere but on his eyebrows?
Stop being greedy, Alasdair. I'm 32 now, so I'm just now starting to go bald. So I'm like, okay, fine. I guess I'll just shave it. It's whatever.
It looks like bald by decision. That's it doesn't look.
That's what I'm going.
It doesn't look like your hand has been forced there. It looks like you've made the choice.
Yeah, it started growing out, and I was like, I can see my scalp through my hair. Probably, and I can't even grow a beard either. Like, just So you know what? If I could trade for just no eyebrows, we'll call it a day. All right, Josh, where can they find you, brother?
I'm also on Twitter at JLindquistVP and on IMDb.
Excellent. All right, and you're already watching my show, so
Exactly.
So this was Rejected Pilots, and you guys can catch us on Fridays on CBS. And no, I lied, Netflix. 6 episodes.
Yes.
All right. And all right, awesome. Well, it was a pleasure, everyone. You have yourself a wonderful day, and bye.
See ya. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome.
Or, are you ready for this? Every season is a new era.
Oh, an
and that's
anthology.
Exactly. Thinking like Fargo, right?
Okay.
Where it's all the same basic feeling and the same basic vibe. You can even bring some cast members back and